Welcome to the Galactic Mind Weather Report. So I'm coming to you from the center of the yellow Sun Wavespell, a 13-day period that is dedicated to the evolution of our capacity to stand in our own sovereignty, to recognize our own inner authority, and that yes, you have the authority to decide what is correct for you, no one else. And so this 13 days is really about working on those aspects of ourselves that are necessary to allow that responsibility, that sovereignty to exist. And so this involves a lot of masculine aspects as well, such as frameworks, discipline, these aspects that can set the safe space for you to be able to allow this sovereign exploration to happen. Now, as we move through this, we're standing in the white resonant Worldbridger. And the white resonant Worldbridger is the center archetype that's responsible for helping us to work on realigning deeply and emotionally with this journey of sovereignty and what it means to stand in our own power and shine our own light out into the world. And so the Worldbridger archetype is very much about death. It's about letting go, surrender. And we can get very caught up in this idea of death that we think of, the one big death, when our body finishes, stops and decays and returns to the earth. And there's so much fear in our culture, especially the Western cultures, around death. In some of these other cultures, there's such a reverence for death and an acknowledgement that for every ending is a beginning. If you look at death all around us, when an animal dies in nature, that animal's body decays. And we can be quite horrified in our Western world by decay and a rotting, kind of body. It's even as I'm saying this, some of you are probably like, oh, do we need to talk about this? But that rotting, decaying animal corpse that then begins to be returned to the earth is actually a sacred, beautiful thing if we can get out of our heads about it, the way we think about it. Because as that body begins to break down, it's returning to energy. And that energy is returning to the earth. And in turn, it gives life to all the new plant matter that arises from it. It gives life and food and sustenance to the insects that keeps this, biofield of the planet alive and thriving. And if we did not have death, we wouldn't have birth. We wouldn't have life. So it is a beautiful, powerful circle. But today what we're looking at is not about our physical death, although that is something that, some of the monks, that would say is, it's our life is really just preparing for an honorable death. The samurais, death was honored and revered, the Spartans, etc. But what we're talking about today is the death of our old self. Because right now I'm standing here talking to you in the Galactic Mind Weather Report. Now, I've been doing these weather reports for... got little Caesar, our kitty, coming and meowing. I've been doing these weather reports for like 3-4 years, and every time I do them, I have the potential to drop into doing it the same way I did it last week, doing it the same way I did it 6 months ago. And my great challenge in everything I do, and just using this weather report as an example, is that when I turn up to this camera, when I set everything up, I need to be ready to let go of the idea that it's even my role to do this, that it becomes a conscious choice every time I set this camera up, that I'm going to step in front of this camera and present myself as uniquely and as in alignment with who I am right now, not with who I said I would be or who I've come from or how I've done it. And I've actually kind of noticed that in the past, what I would do is I would have this certain kind of expectation of myself of what I need to present in these reports. That I would need to explain the archetypes in a certain way. I'd need to do certain things in a certain way. And because I was so caught up in needing to do it a certain way, I wasn't able to really listen to what is coming through me and what I want to speak from my heart, not from my mind. I wasn't listening to what is Pachamama calling from me? What are you calling from me? What are you calling through me to be presented? And so in holding on to these expectations of how I've done it and how I've been in the past and how things have happened in the past, it would create a kind of veil that would block my full light from shining. And so this Worldbridger is all about doing that self-work of really acknowledging, where am I carrying old baggage? Where am I carrying old dogmas and old perspectives and old ways of viewing the world? You know, what kind of lens have I got in front of these eyes that is changing my mental interpretation of this moment? Because when we look at this yellow sun, and this is something that I was really contemplating just earlier, if you think about, okay, let's think about the sun, right? Let's think about this big giant ball of plasma that's in the sky that all of our planets are revolving around. The Earth just happens to be in this perfect distance from our sun so that we have the ideal temperature and environmental conditions for life to exist. So here we are on this planet, this time ship Earth, moving around the sun as the sun is moving through the galaxy. The whole lot is in motion. Now, that sun is like this nuclear generator that is just creating energy, pure force energy. And, you know, in the law of time, Jose Arguelles would say that these are time lenses, that the cosmic awakening codes, in a sense, the time release program is being activated by the center of the galaxy. These frequencies moving through the suns, which are basically amplifying lenses that are bringing it to us. And then the sun is sending these signals down to timeship Earth, to our planet, through like the neutrinos. You know, these tiny little particles that come from the sun and strike our bodies. Now, this is a pretty out there cosmic concept for many. And for many of you, it will seem like, yeah, of course. But what I really want to bring in, beyond the mystery of that, is it's a very scientific fact that great ball of sun, of light, of energy, is what gives life to this planet. It is what animates objects. So think about this. Look around you. Whoops. Getting a bit excited there. Look around you and look, go outside. Look at the trees, the plants, the family members, everything that exists in your environment. Have a look around. Listen to the noises and everything. And now think, if there was no sun, would any of that exist? No. Because it is that heat, that energy, that beautiful power from the sun that is coming through and that is being imbibed, that is being drunken up by the earth and each of the plants, and you know, the photosynthesis that's taking this sunlight and converting it into energy. We are taking sunlight in through our food, through our skin, through our eyes. Sunlight is entering every aspect of our body, and the sun itself is what animates and brings it to life. So you could think of it as we're just puppets. Each and every one of us are these vegetable suits that have been grown from the earth, fueled by the sun. And so each of us has a genetic code. So you have a genome, you know, and we're learning more and more about this as we go. And this is where the Gene Keys work that I'm a big ambassador for is and promoter for is such a powerful thing to understand our own genome. So you have this genetic code inside you, right? So, and it's a specific program that's designed to basically take in this light and then use certain aspects of it in order to animate and create this unique fingertip of God. That's what you are. You are a unique fingertip of God essence itself, exploring itself, meeting another fingertip. And so to be sovereign is to allow yourself to receive that light, to move through you and project itself through your DNA. If you think your DNA is kind of like a, you know when you go to the movies and the old movies would have those big rolls of film, and on those rolls of film, you know, movies are made up of captured moments, lots of captured moments in a row. Now that strip of film is not very exciting until you take the light of a projector in a cinema, in a dark room, and you project light through that moment, and it shines up on the screen, right? That's the outside world, the existence. And so this is like the sun, the light of God, however you want to interpret it, pure force energy coming through your lens, your genome, your own programming, and then projecting out onto a screen to create reality. And so now, as we are experiencing time and space, it's not actually linear, but it's linear in our perception. So what we are essentially doing is taking this radial of time and space, of infinite moments that exist simultaneously, but we're weaving them together in this film strip, and we're using our own genome, which is essentially our script for our own Hollywood movie, our own hero's journey. And we're allowing the light of God to move through and project onto the screen. And so our great challenge, as far as I'm concerned, for enlightenment, is to be able to get out of the way so that that light can shine through you as purely as possible, in order to have the most exquisite human experience of suffering and bliss and joy and all of it together, the sexiness, the playfulness, the sadness, the every bit, to be able to come in and be expressed. Not to fix anything, not to make the world a happy place or a sad place or a good place or a bad place, but to truly have the human experience, to allow the light of God to explore itself through our unique expression. And so the white resonant Worldbridger, today's archetype, is helping us to understand that in order for us to be able to be fully sovereign, which is to stand as your own authority and transmit your pathway, to transmit your light, your expression into the world, we need to be ready to let go of all the old stuff from the old stories, the old patterns. Because what happens is, imagine that we've got that film strip. We've got the film strip, right? Of all the moments of your life, your hero's journey, of how it can be expressed. And now then you've got this light, this God force coming from the center of the galaxy that's wanting to shine through you and project your greatness in whatever form it is out into the world, so that it can combine to create an exquisite piece of art together with all those other fingertips of God. Now you've got this powerful force of light. You've got this incredible script, your hero's journey, that's programmed in your DNA, wanting that light to shine through it. But when we get in our heads and we carry on these old woundings and these hurts and these projections and ideas of how things should be, this mental conditioning, then what happens is we start kind of putting these little fragments in between the light of God and our pure force expression, our ecstatic nature. And so we end up with all these little, kind of like, if you've ever looked at the sky and you see those little things on your eyes that kind of make it, that are moving around, almost like little tadpoles, when you look at the blue sky, or when you're wearing a set of glasses and there's a smudge on your glasses, and you're looking at everything around you is now tainted by that smudge on your glass. And when you clean your glasses, or you clean the lens of a camera, or you clean, this reflective mechanism, a mirror, go clean your mirror and just see the difference about looking at yourself through a dirty mirror and looking at yourself through a clean mirror. And there is actually an incredible difference if you are able to be present enough to witness it. And you will suddenly see it so much more beautiful, so much more flowing. And so this is what we're really talking about today, is that it is our responsibility, it is your responsibility, my responsibility, to acknowledge where our mirrors are dirty. To recognize where are we still holding these mental patternings and projections of what we think should be happening in our lives, or who we should be, measured against all of society and each other. And seeing where we're creating smudges that are stopping the pure force light of God moving through us. And instead, what's happening is that light is coming through and being tainted by our own mental conditioning. And then it is in turn taking that and projecting that out into your reality, and you're witnessing it out there. So it's almost like if you had a big torch, and on that big torch there was a tiny little spider sitting on that big torch, and you're in a dark room, you're not quite sure what's going on, and you turn the torch on, what's going to happen on the wall? That tiny little spider has this light shine, and it creates a shadow on that wall that is massive. And of course, it would be terrifying if you didn't understand the mechanics of what's going on. So you sit there and you're seeing this giant spider shadow on the wall, and you start shitting yourself. It's like, holy crap, what am I going to do? When the problem is actually tiny. Just pink, get it off your screen, get it off the light, and suddenly the terror disappears. And as much as I'm, exaggerating this to a point, this is really what we're looking at. We have so many little spiders, little negative thought patterns, little hurts and wounds that we haven't let go of yet, that we're still blaming the other person for, the perpetrator. We're still carrying those wounds from the past, and understandably. So don't beat yourself up for this. We're all doing it. But our work with the Resonant Worldbridger in this yellow Sun Wavespell is to see, where are those little spiders, those little mental patterns, those niggling, self-critical thoughts that are telling us, the words of our parents, the words of our schooling, the words of our society telling us, no, you can't do that, you're supposed to be like this is who you are. We need to find out those things and be willing to let them go, to surrender into, who are you now? If you let go of all that happened in your past, who are you now? And the more that we can surrender those old wounds through a process, it requires a process. It's not simple. It's not just, oh, okay, I'll let it go. But the more we're willing to commit to that process, the more we can clean our mirrors, to polish our mirrors, as the great Ram Dass would say, and allow the light of God to shine through us more purely. And in turn, our reality, our outer reality, will reflect that. We will begin to experience the movie we came here to see, not the horror story our minds want to create. So, thank you for joining me for this Mid-Wavespell Galactic Weather Report. And may you shine your light into the world and find the courage to be you. Find the courage to explore, to make mistakes, because that's the only way you'll discover who you are. And don't worry about how people will think of you, because when you find yourself, when you do find yourself and you begin to believe in yourself and you begin to shine that out into the world, everyone will forget every mistake you made getting to that point. They will forget everything. The brilliance of your light will capture their attention in that moment, and the whole world will fall in love with one another. So, I'm about to take off tomorrow to head to Bali, working at a retreat there, and then going to catch a little bit of the Bali Spirit Festival, so maybe I'll see some of you around. And I'll be doing the the New Wavespell report from Bali, so I'll see you there. Much love in Lakesh.